This video is about one core idea. Fix the biology and everything else will follow. And it's backed by peer-reviewed research. Because I want you to walk away from this understanding why you feel the way you do now as a dad and what to do about it. You're not alone, by the way. If you don't know already, my name is Kevin. I am 44 years old and I've got 3 kids under the age of 5 currently. No more because I've had a vasectomy. So, well, you never know. Could get a surprise. TMI already. All right. Exhaustion is not a weakness. So since you had kids, something has shifted. You're tired in a way that sleep doesn't actually fix. And you feel like you've lost that drive, that need to compete. And your body doesn't look or feel the same way that it used to. You'll feel less confident. You might feel less sharp. And probably like you're going through the motions, which is very, very common. The relationship with you and your partner has changed. And there's less connection and there's less intimacy. And most dads put this down to stress. Or they put it down to age. Or this is just what happens when you have kids. But here's what's actually happening. Your hormones have changed significantly. And the way you're living is making every single day worse. Men run on a 24-hour testosterone cycle, naturally. This daily rhythm governs everything. Your mood, your drive, your confidence, your stress tolerance, your libido, your motivation to train. And when it's functioning properly, you feel like yourself. When it's disrupted by poor sleep, bad food, chronic stress, no exercise, you operate as a depleted version of yourself. And for most dads right now, it is disrupted every day. So men's 24-hour cycle, which you don't hear much about. We normally hear about the woman's 28-day cycle, which I will touch on in a moment. But this is when testosterone peaks in the morning. It starts to peak as you wake up from 4 a.m. onwards. And this is when you're at your best. This is why, ideally, it's best to work out in the morning before the kids get up. It drops steadily throughout the day, and by bedtime, it's at its lowest. So you might notice you feel horniest in the morning. Maybe you get morning wood still. And if you do, I congratulate you. And then you might notice that your missus is, she's feeling a bit frisky in the evenings compared to the mornings. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about your missus, I don't know her. But this is why you feel very capable in the morning. You feel very up for it, anything and everything. And then you're completely flat by bedtime. And this cycle resets daily, but only if conditions are right. So poor sleep, chronic stress, and bad food flatten that peak, even before you get a chance to build it. Fatherhood, although wonderful, I'm supposed to say that, drops testosterone further. So the Northwestern University in 2011 studied 624 fellas over 4.5 years. And they published a paper called Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. And said that new fathers were down 26% in their morning testosterone and down 34% in their evening testosterone compared to single men of the same age. This is not, as you can tell, a small dip. That's a third of your testosterone gone. So lower testosterone means lower drive, lower confidence, more body fat, less muscle, less energy, and a low mood. Does some of this sound familiar? The men who showed the biggest drops were the ones most involved in childcare. The present dads, the ones doing the night feeds, the school runs, the bedtime routines. Being a good father literally changes your biology. And the University of Notre Dame, or Notre Dame as the American people like to say, in 2025 said men living with school-aged and teenage children still show lower testosterone than single men. So it's not just when they're babies. This follows you for years, not just in the newborn phase, as you can see. This is not weakness, though. This is biology. But biology, you can do something about. Women run on a 28-day cycle. So her energy, her mood, her need for connection, her need for space, none of it is random. Day 1 to 7 is low estrogen, low energy, natural withdrawal, and this is not rejection. Day 8 to 13, estrogen rises. There's more energy, she's more open to connection. Day 14 to 16 is peak estrogen. So peak connection, peak libido. And day 17 to 28, the last phase of the cycle, progesterone rises. Mood drops, withdrawal returns. It's not personal, it's damn progesterone. Progesterone. I'm saying that right. A man who's physically sharp has the emotional regulation to read this correctly. A depleted man takes every single withdrawal personally and responds in a way that makes everything worse. This is a fitness and performance outcome, not a therapy outcome. My missus hates when I say this, but I believe that talking is overrated for fellas. And a lot of modern psychotherapy is based on talking. Sometimes it can be good, but action is what's needed. And there's many ways to get there. I mean, action as in looking after yourself action, and then maybe another type of action. Do you know what I'm saying? Your missus gave birth and her hormonal environment changed. So estrogen crashed to near menopausal levels. Prolactin surged to produce milk. And prolactin actively suppresses libido. Oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone she used, right? That she used to get from you, is now redirected entirely to the baby through feeding and skin-to-skin contact. The studies show that 40 to 83% of breastfeeding women report reduced sexual desire postpartum. So she's not withholding, she is biologically depleted in a different way to you. The frustration that builds in dads who don't understand this is a stress response, which suppresses your testosterone further. Understanding the biology breaks this cycle. Two depleted people cannot fill each other up. When both systems are broken, they grind against each other rather than working in sync. This is where most couples get stuck, not because of a lack of love, but because both people are running on empty, and neither has given a maintenance program. You cannot fix her system. You can fix yours. And that changes the dynamic entirely. So take that hormonal drop and add modern life on top of it. 5 hours of sleep, ultra-processed food, no exercise, chronic stress. Each of these independently suppress testosterone. And the University of Chicago said that sleep deprivation alone reduces testosterone by up to 15% per week. Combine that with inactivity and poor nutrition, and the compounding effect is significant and measurable. A 38-year-old dad, for example, living this way can have the hormonal profile of a man 20 years his senior. You're not lazy, you're running on depleted biological systems with no maintenance program, and you're getting old before your time. You might be 38, but you feel like you're 58. Cortisol and testosterone have an inverse relationship. When one goes up, the other one goes down. When stress goes up, testosterone comes down. Every time, there's no exceptions to that. And with chronic stress, the low-grade permanent kind that most dads carry, this keeps your cortisol elevated and testosterone suppressed indefinitely. This is why you cannot mindset your way out of this. Positive thinking doesn't lower cholesterol. Cortisol. Don't get me started on cholesterol. I'll stick my tinfoil hat on. You have to physically reduce the stress load, and that's what starts with the body. For 200,000 years of human existence, the most attractive woman a man would ever probably see is his wife. Then we got a smartphone. Research shows repeated exposure to idealized images reduces satisfaction with real partners, not because your partner's changed, but because the reference point has been artificially inflated beyond anything that exists in reality. This creates low-grade chronic dissatisfaction, which is a stress state, which raises cortisol, which suppresses testosterone. She sees the same images, compares herself, feels less attractive, and pulls away. You interpret that as rejection. Stress goes up, testosterone goes down further. Two people, one feedback loop, and both of you are losing. The man with genuine physical self-esteem built on real achievement is far less susceptible to this trap. Most dads try to fix the relationship directly. More conversations, more date nights, more waiting. None of this works because none of it addresses the root cause. The root cause is a depleted biological system. You cannot positive think your way to better testosterone. You cannot date night your way out of chronic cortisol. Fix the biology first, everything else follows. The framework I propose, and I teach and I coach, has 3 pillars. Recovery first. Sleep, stress management, recovery protocols. Build second. So strength training and nutrition. And sustain third. Daily movement, hydration, and consistency. Now, I paused there before I mentioned those 3 because we live in a patriarchal society. And so I know you want to throw your eyes up to the heavens when you hear the word patriarchy. But there's matriarchal systems as well. And that patriarchal system comes across, and you see it on social media as rise and grind. You know, you're not a man if you can't do X amount of pull-ups, or you ain't got a six-pack. You need to hustle every day, and how much money are you making, how much possessions do you have, and it's constant of like grind, rise and grind, you know, all that kind of stuff. But if you're watching this, you are likely a high-achieving man. You're taking the time for personal development by watching me. Right, 13 minutes so far. So you're someone that believes in bettering yourself and being the best version of yourself. So you are probably someone that rises and grinds. Maybe you burn the candle at both ends. And that's why you don't need more motivation. You don't need more grind. You need to learn how to recover, to rest, to recuperate, and then build upon that. Anyway, when these 3 are working, recovery, building, sustaining, energy improves, confidence improves, mood stabilizes, and self-talk will change. You have genuine physical evidence that you're doing something about your situation. And everything else in your life, relationship, work, parenting, responds to that. Sleep first. Now, 7 to 8 hours. I made this slide, if you're watching this as opposed to listening, and it says 7 hours is non-negotiable. I can't remember the last time I got 7 hours sleep. I'd been awake since 2:30 a.m. So I had a solid 4 hours last night, but it was unbroken. And But I feel great. I mean, everyone is very individual. We all need different amounts of sleep. But for the average person, the average is 7 hours that's recommended. And let's say you get 6. Are you able to fit in a 20-minute nap some stage in the day if you work from home, for example? But it's really judge on how you feel. But we're aiming for 7 hours. You've got older kids, maybe you're able to get that. But sleep is the single highest leverage intervention for testosterone. More than any supplement, more than any training program. The reason why you don't hear about it is because people can't sell you sleep. It feels strange to say, hey, you, do nothing. Close your eyes, relax, think of nothing. The people can't make money out of that unless they're trying to sell you beds that heat themselves or cool themselves. So that's nonsense. Or sleep supplements. By the way, I think every supplement apart from maybe sea salt and creatine is nonsense. Waste the money. Right. Your body produces the majority of testosterone during deep sleep. If you are not sleeping, you are not recovering. So the practical steps here are consistent bedtime, cool dark room, no screens 30 minutes before bed. Everything else in this framework depends on this one thing being in place first. Now, I will give caveats there. As I mentioned, I have a shorter amount of sleep, but it is very deep. And as I mentioned at the start, I have 3 young kids, 5, 4, and almost 2. And there's always someone waking up. But you got to do what you can. Right? You can't get in the habit of saying, "Oh, I didn't get 7 hours last night, so I'm not going to train today, or I'm not going to eat well today." Do what you can with what you have where you are. So after recovery, we have build. So this is the second phase. Compound movements, ideally. Deadlifts, squats, pressing, pulling. You don't need a commercial gym. A barbell and a pull-up bar is sufficient. Progressive resistance training raises testosterone, builds muscle, reduces body fat, and improves your mood. So, although you may not be getting the 7 hours sleep like me, I offset that by intense strength training regularly. And that brings my testosterone up. And by the way, you might think, oh, you can do testosterone tests, and I've done them before, but I believe more so in assessing yourself intuitively. How do you feel? What's your libido like? Are you getting erections? It's not like back in the day when you just get a boner just because the wind changes, but are you feeling like you got lust for life? Then your testosterone is probably high. And the whole thing about having a beard, not having a beard, I'm 44, I still can't grow a beard. So this thing like, oh, if you're hairier, you got more testosterone. Don't know. I think that's just bald fellas trying to make themselves feel better. I can't grow a beard, but I've got hair. It's God giveth, God taketh away. No supplement does what consistent strength training does. The research on this is unambiguous. 3 sessions a week, that's what I do. This is the minimum effective dose. Consistency beats intensity. Showing up 3 times a week, every week outperforms going hard for 2 weeks and then stopping. And finally, the third phase, building. Most dads significantly undereat protein. This is one of the most common gaps that you'll see. I mean, the target should be 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 160 pounds, I'm 170 pounds, I think, then you eat 170 or 160 grams of protein. Right? That's the minimum. Protein supports muscle retention, right? Satiety, and gives your body the raw materials to produce testosterone. You don't need a complex diet. Adequate protein and mostly real food from a farm is the brief. Track your intake for 1 week. Most dads are shocked by how far they fall from this standard. And I used to be a vegan, and when people say there's protein in black beans or in peanut butter, propaganda nonsense. The devil's in the detail. There is some protein, but the amount of carbs and calories to protein ratio, you're not going to get a strong, lean physique doing that. you'd have to eat like buckets and buckets of black beans to get the same kind of protein you get in a steak. So now I eat mainly, every meal has meat in it, and I went from a vegan to that. So don't believe all these Netflix documentaries that you see. Notice how many you see about veganism. How many do you see about omnivoreism or carnivore diet? It's just Bill Gates and there's other. I won't say the word because I think you're not allowed to say that on the internet. But those are creep lads, trying to push vegan food because they buying up all the farmland and then making artificial food while putting the real farmers out of work. It's mad. Anyway, tinfoil hat off. Back to the agenda. Almost done. Last three slides. So, steps and sustaining your fat loss. Walking is the biggest fat loss hack. So 10,000 steps a day is a target. And by the way, that number was invented by a Japanese company who was selling a pedometer. This is a manual pedometer that you keep on your body. And they just chose 10,000 because it was a nice round number. Right? But really the research shows, done in Japan, that about 7,500 steps is the sweet spot per day. But daily movement directly metabolizes cortisol, and it is one of the most effective stress management tools available. So not just fat loss, but also for relaxing. It supports metabolic health, your sleep quality, and cardiovascular function. Walking is not a consolation prize, by the way, for people who can't train. Look at bodybuilders. So I used to scoff at people about talking about, I've done so many steps today. I'd be like, come on, start running or lift weights. But I was ignorant. What I realized then, my observation was, you go to a gym, look very closely at the people in the gym. Look at the people who get paid, not very much, but still get paid, to be lean. To have as much muscle and as little fat as possible. The professional bodybuilders. These people work out and then walk on a treadmill for the half an hour, 45 minutes at a very slow pace. Right? They don't walk on a treadmill and then work out like the general population, because they're building muscle when their body's the freshest and have the most testosterone. And then once their workout is done, they're walking very slowly at a conversational pace for around that half an hour to 45 minutes to burn off the fat. So listen to the big lads. Walking is an essential. It's free, it's simple, and it's immediate. Okay. Sorry. The internal narrative of a depleted dad is almost always negative and almost always inaccurate. You're not useless. You're not past it. You are under-recovered and under-supported. Start talking to yourself like a coach, not a critic. Your mindset is not separate from your biology. Chronic negative self-talk elevates cortisol and suppresses testosterone. It is a physical issue as much as a mental one. The internal narrative changes when your body changes. This is why we fix the biology first. When the physical foundation is right, everything else in your life responds to it. Energy at work, presence with your kids, confidence in your relationship, and your mood in the morning. All three pillars must be in place: recovery, build, and sustain. Remove any one of them and the foundation becomes unsustainable and unstable. This is the order. Fix the biology first and the rest follows. Now, before anything else, before you go about a job, we need to know where you're at. So the Apex Dad scorecard takes 2 minutes and it tells you exactly where you might be depleted across 5 key pillars. Them being body, mind, relationship, family, business. The link below or in the show notes to take that scorecard. And also I'll put in a link to our 10-day challenge if this space is still available, which is starting next month. 10 days, no gym needed. There'll also be a link in the description and the show notes to join that too. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.